My friends, I went to a very good high school, like kind of like the rich high school, not the high school I should have gone to. I was able to go to this different high school, and I would remember I would tell them like, hey, this is like, yeah, I would be so ashamed that I worked at Burger King. They would sometimes come by, and I would just be like, oh fuck, like, and then at some point, it was like this release moment where I was like, this is my life. Like I can't do anything about it. This is what it is right now, and I kind of had a sense that I could figure some stuff out later, but I didn't really know. And so I just accepted it. And then the minute I accepted it, I wasn't ashamed anymore. And then when I wasn't ashamed, I could start to actually be inside my head like what really mattered. Completely rewired what money was. For Terry Matthews, money was an instrument of change, right? He had a market cap. He's like, wow, that's $8 billion of change, $10 billion of change, $15 billion of change. And Sam helped me because it was just like, you could understand from him what Terry cared about. And then for me, I just copied. I mean, a lot of my life, quite honestly, is just copying things that I see. There's not a lot of original thought here. It truly is not. I mean, we can all pretend we're all fucking geniuses. Honestly, be good copiers. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the best thing in the world. Like, be around high-functioning, high-quality people and just copy the shit that they do. Observe the shit that's, kind of crappy, and then don't do that stuff. It's not fucking complicated. 150 people that run the world. Anybody who wants to go into politics, they're all fucking puppets, okay? There are 150, and they're all men, that run the world, period, full stop. They control most of the important assets. They control the money flows. And these are not the tech entrepreneurs. Now, they are going to get rolled over the next 5 to 10 years by the people that are really underneath pulling the strings. And when you get behind the curtain and see how that world works, what you realize is it is unfairly set up for them and their progeny. Now, I'm not going to say that that's something that we can rip apart, but first order of business is I want to break through and be at that table. That's the first order of business. And the way that I do that is by proving that I can do what they do as well as they do it. And then do it better than how they are commercial fucking animals. Okay? And they'll open the door out of curiosity and they'll let me stay because I add value. And then once I'm there, I can open the door for other people who can try to do the same thing. So my entire goal now is to be in a position to aggregate enough of the capital of the world to then reallocate it against my worldview. And I'm not saying my worldview is the best or right, but it is mine. And at the end of the day, there are 150 other fucking guys with their worldview, and they don't give a shit what you think about their fucking worldview. That's the truth. Extremely dedicated, in their case, to something which is physical fitness because they're professional athletes. When I give up, right, when the average human gives up, their brain goes into fucking overdrive. Okay? And they're like, there's this next level burst. And so like, it's that. Yeah. It's like when things get hard, can you double down? A different example, we had yesterday, we do these things every quarter called quarterly portfolio reviews, where incredibly intensive review of our entire portfolio, revisiting our strategy, talking about all the things we're doing to make sure we're on the right track. And I had this observation, which was, I started a diabetes business, but that business took 7 years to get to a place where we even have a chance of being viable. And I think capitalists want a starting line where all of those people can run a race so that I can pick the winner. No offense to any of you here. And it took us 3 years where now those building blocks exist, and I'm like, wow. How many times did I have to look at my partners and say, no, the easy answer is to walk away, the hard answer is to double down, we have to support this business. That culture is missing here. So part of what we're trying to do to achieve those goals is like, take really big, audacious points of view on the world, and then train ourselves to be patient. And it's really, really hard. The entire society is set up to not be patient anymore.
And I'm hearing also a conflict with this like fail fast and learn mentality where if you're taking a deep and big bet, like you want it to be the right one, how do you know when that's true?
I think that's fail fast approach works in consumer internet business. It's where all the money comes. Like if you talk about where all of the gains, where all of the value will be created over the next 50 years, it'll be in those hard things. And the reason is because those white spaces are so wide open. The competitive pressures are non-existent. For example, today you have this weirdly academic argument about climate change. It exists. It doesn't exist. Well, we were in an ice age. Now it's of course the Earth. Who cares? What's undeniable is that we're ripping apart the biodiversity of our planet. What is undeniable is that we as a human population will be forced to concentrate because certain parts of the world will get basically, subsumed by water. We do not have food supplies these are conclusively known to be true. Yet nobody's really working on a problem. Created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are. And I would encourage all of you as the future leaders of the world to really internalize how important this is. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem. So we're in a really bad state of affairs right now, in my opinion.
This is Chamath Palihapitiya, the Sri Lankan-born Canadian-American billionaire who helped Mark Zuckerberg create Facebook, and this is his life story. Chamath was born in Sri Lanka in 1976. He was not a privileged child, and at the age 6, his family moves to Canada. In Canada, his father was unemployed most of the time, and his mom had to work on different housekeeping jobs. Chamath even worked at Burger King when he was 14 years old to make the ends meet. However, in 1999, he completes an electrical engineering degree from University of Waterloo and works in an investment bank. With both engineering and investment knowledge combined, he moves to California. In Silicon Valley, Chamath joins AOL as the youngest VP of the company. AOL at the time was a very popular internet company. Later, in 2005, he joins Facebook, and at the time Facebook nearly has like 10 people. So Chamath was a great growth hacker, and within the next 4 years, Chamath and Zuckerberg together boost Facebook's growth to 1 billion users. Zuckerberg even rewards Chamath with Facebook stocks later to thank his great actions. And in 2011, he leaves Facebook and he begins investing his money in multiple companies and spends time playing poker. He even goes to the extent of playing poker in world poker tournaments and becomes the 42nd world poker champion. In 2011, the same year, Chamath buys Golden State Warriors for a whopping $450 million. Golden State Warriors is the basketball team of San Francisco, and it was his childhood dream to be a part of that team. Chamath later creates Social Capital, a VC firm based in California with $5 billion and invests in high-growth tech companies. In very recent times, he even helped Richard Branson start Virgin Galactic in New Mexico by investing $300 million for his rocket company. Today, he is 44 years old, has 4 children, and lives in Palo Alto, California. And people even want him to run for the governor of California.
My parents craved money, meaning they needed it because my dad was unemployed for long stretches of time. My mom was a sole breadwinner, and I would just see how she grinded. We didn't have a car for a long time. She takes the bus, we all take the bus. When I got my first job, it was at Burger King. I'd take the money and I'd have to give it to my parents, and we would buy bus passes. It was a huge point of pressure and tension in the family. It created massive depression in my father, drinking, it was very dysfunctional. And there was some point along the way where I was like, okay, is money really important or not important? And I feel very lucky because I don't think if you ask my sisters, they got to the same place that I did. But I ended up not coveting it. And I found it to be something that I could use to really empower myself to do the things that I wanted to do. Who are like me, brown-skinned, working hard, creating these beautiful experiences, and then I can celebrate it by, I guess giving a Yelp review, but you can't buy food for your kids with a fucking Yelp review. So I want a tip. And it's so, it gives me so much joy, because it's like, you'll have like a $300 or $400 bill. In some cases, you tip $500 or $1,000, and you close it, and they're expecting $40. And I get a little emotional, but like they will come out to you, and it's transformational. And so it's so great. It's just like little things like that mean a lot to people. And just to be anonymously generous like that, I think is like, it's a great gift that I have the ability to do. That's why I do it. I love it. A lot of things, like, it's really powerful to be able to say, I don't know. I would just encourage you guys all to just be like, I don't know. Like this culture, like American culture, it's this weird thing of like know-it-alls. Everybody has to know everything. How the fuck can you ever learn? When is that going to be valuable? Don't be just own that one line, I don't know, is so powerful. And as I kind of like get more abstracted, when I meet people and I ask them things, it is so endearing to hear I don't know. Because behind that is just a self-awareness and confidence that I think is increasingly rare. Now, you guys are like, I'm going to fucking grin fuck this guy and just keep telling everybody I don't know. Don't do that. Really own it. If you're going to say it, really own it. But I really think it's a very powerful thing to be able to say, I don't know. Economies are only ever in one of 4 states. You're poor and you know you're poor. You're rich, but you still behave like you're poor. You're rich and you behave like you're rich. And then you're poor and you still behave like you're rich, right? And it's a cycle. And you can map all countries in the world to this very simple kind of model. America is kind of rich behaving rich. India is probably poor behaving poor. China is rich behaving poor. France is poor behaving rich, and you can figure it all out. We're in this really huge secular transition away from degrees towards skills. It no longer matters where you went to school, what you did. Don't tell me you have an MBA. It's irrelevant. It's useless. Who gives a shit?
The job that we were doing. But I was so empty because I was like, we're not doing the job that we were supposed to be doing.
Which was investing in healthcare, education.
Not even in investing. The point is, like, you need to be there to like basically take a stand on issues. And I have the bully pulpit to do it. We had the capital to do it, but we weren't doing it in as much of a way that we should have been. Climate change still ripping away unabated. What is anybody doing about it? Education is eroding at the seams. What is anybody really doing about it? Drug costs through the ceiling. The United States healthcare system worse and worse and worse every year, even though we spend more and more and more. What is anybody really doing about it? And the answer is not as much as needs to be done.
Yeah. And certainly not as much.
And so that's not a conversation of investing or IRRs or blah, blah, blahs. It's about ideas, and it's about people, and it's about drawing a line in the sand and doing things.
Hi, my name is Vithushan, and I'm a first-year MBA student. I'm also a Canadian who went to Waterloo, and my first job was at Burger King. So I really see you as a role model.
You're like my fucking brother. Literally, you look like me too. It's crazy. It's the weirdest thing. Are you planted? Are you an actor? What is going on?
I swear to God.
Well, you're really freaking me out right now. What do you want?
So my question for you is, a couple years ago at an event at HBS, you mentioned that MBA students are typically at a disadvantage with respect to getting capital if they pursue entrepreneurship. Do you think that still holds true today? And if so,
that's a perfect example of me expressing my bias. And I think part of my bias came from my insecurity about not having a grad degree. Part of my bias was like looking at people like you saying, wow, I just feel inferior to folks like you. I've had